And so we settle in. You can feel your body beginning to grow heavy in the most pleasant way. In our time together tonight, there is nothing to examine, nothing to understand, only the gentle rhythm of a strange and quiet legend, the story of a cage made of beauty and a prayer that broke it open in the most unexpected way. The world outside can fade away now, any sounds can become distant and soft. All that matters is this comfortable space and the gentle whisper of a story that begins inside the cold stone walls of a castle. A soft suggestion as you get comfortable: if these stories are a gift to you, a like or subscribe is a gift you can give back. An effortless exchange of peaceful energy. And only if you wish. And as you do, you might feel a quiet connection to others listening at this very moment, in different corners of the world. Perhaps you could leave a comment, just before you drift off, telling me the name of your city, and what time it is for you there. It is a lovely thought. A silent community, resting together. All right. Let the shadows in your room grow long and soft. Maybe you can hear the faint sound of your own breathing, and together, let's allow the story to begin. We'll step through time into a world lit only by firelight and the moon, and find you there waiting. You are sitting by a window. It's not a window as we know it, with smooth, clear glass. This is an archer's slit, a tall, narrow gash in a stone wall that is 5 feet thick. There is no glass, only a heavy wooden shutter, now pushed open to the evening air. The air is cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and wood smoke from the kitchens below. You pull your woolen shawl a little tighter. The fabric is a deep, rich blue dyed with expensive woad, but it still feels coarse against your skin. Everything in your life is like this, beautiful from a distance, but heavy and imprisoning up close. This is your world, a gilded cage. You are the daughter of a powerful duke in what will one day be called Portugal, and your life is a tapestry woven by other hands. Each morning your ladies in waiting wake you. They are not your friends, not really. They are watchers, guardians of your virtue and your value. They help you dress in layers of linen and silk and velvet, the clothes so heavy they dictate the way you walk, the way you breathe. Your father, a man you see mostly at formal dinners, looks at you with a kind of satisfied appraisal, the way a merchant looks at a flawless pearl. He doesn't see a daughter. He sees an asset, a beautiful chess piece to be moved across the political board of Europe. Your beauty is your currency, and your duty is to be beautiful. The process is a daily ritual. After you are dressed, you sit before a polished silver mirror, which shows you a wavy, distorted version of yourself. Your maids apply powders to your fine white powder, a cosmetic called CEUs, which gives your skin the fashionable, pale look of a lily. It feels tight on your skin, and you don't know, you can't possibly know, that it is made from lead. Subtle poison you willingly paint on your face every day to achieve a perfection that isn't really yours. This is the curious thing about your existence. The very tools used to enhance your value are the ones that quietly diminish you, locking you inside a painted mask. You look around your chamber. A great tapestry hangs on one wall, its threads depicting a hunt, men on horseback, spears raised, chasing a stag through a forest of green and gold. The stag looks desperate, its eyes wide. You sometimes feel a strange kinship with the stag. In the corner, there is a small wooden chest where you keep your most treasured possession, a book. An illuminated manuscript. Its pages filled with the stories of the saints. The letters filled with the stories of the saints. The letters are perfect, penned by a monk you will never meet, and the margins are a riot of golden leaves and tiny, intricate flowers. Historians, by the way, still can't quite agree on you, on women like you. Some argue that noble women in your time were largely illiterate, that a book like this was just another status symbol, something to be owned but not understood. They believe you would have looked at the pictures, tracing the images of martyrdom and miracles with your finger, while the meaning of the words remained a mystery. But other scholars insist this is a vast oversimplification. They point to letters, to household accounts, to evidence that many women of your station were educated, especially in matters of faith. They believe you could read, slowly perhaps, sounding out the Latin under your breath in the quiet moments when no one was watching. The truth is likely somewhere in between, a complex reality that changes from one castle to the next, But for you in this room, the book is a secret door. You can read. And the stories of the saints are not just tales, they are possibilities. They are stories of women who defied kings and fathers, who chose a spiritual path over a worldly one. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the distant sounds of the castle settling down for the night, the clatter of a pot, the bark of a dog in the courtyard, the low murmur of the guards on the battlements. All of it feels a million miles away. Here, in the chilly solitude of your room, you are faced with your own reflection in the darkening archway. You see the perfect daughter, the perfect bride-to-be, a flawless porcelain doll. But tonight, you feel a faint, hairline crack in the porcelain, a tiny, secret fracture that no one else can see, but you can feel it spreading, a quiet rebellion taking root in the very marrow of your bones. The feeling is still with you as you rise from the window seat. It's not a loud, defiant anger, but a deep, quiet certainty, as cold and solid as the stones of the castle walls. The moon is higher now, a sliver of bone-white light in the dark sky. The castle is asleep, or as asleep as a fortress ever gets. You know the guards are there, walking the ramparts, their footsteps a muffled rhythm you've heard your entire life. But tonight, you need to move unseen. You slide your feet into soft leather slippers that make no sound on the stone floors. You don't take a candle. You know these passages by heart. You could walk them blindfolded. The air in the corridors is colder than in your room, and it smells of dust and something ancient, like time itself has a scent. You pass beneath huge, faded tapestries, their woven figures like ghosts in the gloom. You are a ghost yourself, a slip of a girl in a plain linen shift, gliding through the sleeping heart of your father's power. Your destination is the small family chapel. It's not the grand church where the whole household attends Mass on Sundays. This is a private, almost secret place, tucked away behind the great hall. The door is heavy oak, but you know the trick to its iron latch, how to lift and turn it so it makes only the softest click. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of beeswax, cold incense, and stone. A single shaft of moonlight cuts through a high, stained glass window, illuminating a cloud of dust motes dancing in the stillness. It's the only light. You move to the altar. Above it is a carved wooden statue of the Virgin Mary, her painted face serene and gentle in the gloom. You've looked at this face 1,000 times, but tonight you see it differently. You see not just piety, but a kind of strength. A woman whose life was defined by a divine choice, not a mortal one. In your book of saints, you read about women like Saint Agnes, who declared that Christ was her only spouse and was martyred for refusing to marry a Roman official, which once seemed like beautiful, distant fables, now feel like urgent instructions. A map out of your gilded cage. You sink to your knees on the cold stone floor. The chill seeps through the thin linen of your shift, a sharp, grounding sensation. This is real. This is not a dream. For a long time, you just kneel in the silence, your head bowed. You are choosing a path that your world has no place for. Of course, there are convents. You could become a nun, but that is a decision made with a father's permission, often involving a hefty dowry paid to the church. It is another transaction. What you are contemplating is something else entirely. A personal, unbreakable contract between you and God. Historians still debate the true nature of such vows. Perhaps it was a pure, unadulterated act of faith. A young woman so filled with spiritual love that the idea of a mortal husband was genuinely repulsive. Or perhaps it was something more strategic. Some scholars suggest that for a medieval woman, a vow of virginity was one of the very few ways she could exercise control over her own life. It was a way to say no, a way to escape a forced marriage, to avoid the life-threatening dangers of constant childbirth, and perhaps in the cloistered world of a convent to find a space for intellect and authority that was denied to wives and mothers. They wonder if your piety was also a form of rebellion, the only one available to you. But you aren't thinking about that. You are thinking of the concept of a sponsor Christi, a bride of Christ. It's a powerful, mystical idea you've read about, that a virgin could be spiritually wedded to the divine, a union more profound than any earthly marriage. In the darkness of the chapel, you close your eyes and imagine it. Not a king from Sicily, but a king from heaven. It feels less like an escape and more like a true destination. You press your palms together, your fingers cold. And then you speak. The words are a whisper, barely disturbing the dusty air, but they feel as loud as a thunderclap in your own heart. God, you begin, your voice trembling slightly. I am yours. My life is yours. I vow to you my chastity, now and forever. I will have no other spouse but you. You say the words, and as you do, a strange peace settles over you. It feels like a lock has clicked into place, securing a door that can never again be opened. You imagine a ring, not of gold, but of pure light, being slipped onto your finger. A curious little detail of the era. Some devout women, particularly mystics like Catherine of Siena, would claim to have experienced this very vision. A holy betrothal complete with a supernatural ring that only they could see. For a moment, kneeling there, you are no longer a duke's daughter. You are not a political pawn or a beautiful prize. You are a soul that has made its own irreversible choice. You rise, your knees stiff from the cold stone, and slip back out of the chapel, leaving the moonlight and the silence behind. You return to your chamber, to your bed, and for the first time in a very long time, you sleep a deep and dreamless sleep. You don't know it yet, but you have just lit a fuse. The world is about to come knocking, demanding the girl you no longer are. The next morning, the world feels different, sharper. The light slanting through the arrow slit in your window seems brighter, the bird song from the courtyard below more clear. Your maids arrive, their faces a familiar blend of deference and boredom, and the daily ritual of dressing begins. But today, you feel like an actor in a play. As they lace the brocade gown, pulling the cord so tight you can barely breathe, you feel a secret amusement. They are dressing a doll. The one who knelt on the cold chapel floor is somewhere else, untouched and unseen. This feeling carries you through the next few weeks. You move through your days with a serene detachment. You practice your embroidery, your fingers guiding the needle through the taut linen, creating images of flowers and beasts that you feel no connection to. Use it beside your mother, a woman worn smooth by a lifetime of duty, and listen to her endless talk of managing the household, of storing preserves for the winter, of the proper way to treat a visiting dignitary. You nod and smile, a perfect, obedient daughter, but your mind is 1,000 miles away in a silent chapel with a single shaft of moonlight. Then one evening, the fuse you lit finally reaches the powder. Your father summons you to the great hall after dinner. This is unusual. Normally, he communicates his wishes through your mother or your governess. A direct summons means something important. The hall is a cavernous space, the ceiling lost in shadows far above. Torches flicker in iron sconces along the walls, casting huge, dancing shadows. The air smells of roasted meat, wine, and dogs, because of course, there are dogs sleeping by the hearth, their tails thumping occasionally against the stone floor. This is a quirky detail of medieval life that often gets overlooked in grand tapestries, the constant, casual presence of animals indoors. Not just pampered lapdogs, but working hounds, their coats still damp from the hunt, sharing the warmth of the fire with their lords. Your father is standing by the massive fireplace, a carved stone monstrosity that takes up half the wall. He is a large man, his power radiating from him like heat. He turns as you enter and curtsy. He doesn't smile. He is not a smiling man. "Daughter," he says, his voice booming in the vast space. "I have news." You wait, your hands folded demurely in front of you. You feel your heart beating, a slow, steady drum against your ribs. You are calm. You have your secret, your invisible shield. "A delegation has arrived from the Kingdom of Sicily," he announces, his chest swelling with pride. "They come on behalf of their king. He has heard tales of your beauty, of your grace. He has seen the portrait we sent." He gestures vaguely, referring to the stylized, flattering painting that a traveling artist spent a month creating. "It looks a little like you, but more importantly, it looks like a princess should. He is a powerful man, a good match. But a marriage to our house will bring him into the light of Christ. It will be a holy union and a powerful alliance. A king from Sicily, a pagan king." The words hang in the smoky air. This is the moment you have been dreading your entire life, the moment your gilded cage shrinks to the size of a wedding bed. But instead of the panic you expected, you feel that same cold, clear certainty. The choice has already been in a chapel in the dark. He has formally asked for your hand, your father concludes, finally allowing a small, tight smile. The contracts are being drawn. You are to be the next Queen of Sicily. You look at your father, at his proud, expectant face, and you know you cannot tell him the truth. Not yet. To tell him about your vow would be to declare war. He would see it as childish rebellion, a fit of piety that threatens his political ambitions. He would drag you to the altar himself if he had to. Historians still puzzle over the precise legal standing of such a private vow. To the church, a sincere vow to God was a binding, sacred oath, but to a secular lord like your father, her daughter's vow, made without his knowledge or consent, would be an infuriating, if not outright invalid, obstacle. It was a clash of two absolute authorities, the authority of a father over his daughter, and the authority of God over a soul. There was no easy answer. You need time. You need a miracle. You bow your head. You honor me, Father, you say. Your voice a soft murmur. It's the perfect response, the response of a dutiful daughter. He is satisfied. He dismisses you with a wave of his hand, turning back to the fire, already lost in thoughts of ships and dowries and treaties. You walk back to your chamber, your feet silent on the stone. The king from Sicily, a man you have never met, who worships other gods, is coming to claim you. The world is closing in. Back in your room you don't light a candle. You go to the arrow-slit window and look out at the same sliver of moon. It seems colder now, more distant. Your secret vow was a shield, but a shield can only hold for so long against a siege. You need more than a promise. You need a fortress. You sink to your knees right there, the cold stone of the window ledge biting into your skin, and you begin to pray again. But this is a different kind of prayer. Not a prayer of dedication, a prayer of desperation, a prayer for help, a prayer for a way out that no one, not even your father, could possibly force you through. Your prayers in the following days become a silent, fervent rhythm beneath the surface of your life. While your hands are busy with embroidery, your mind is in that quiet chapel. While your ladies in waiting chatter about fabrics for your wedding trousseau, shimmering silks from the east, velvets so dark they drink the light, your soul is whispering a desperate petition. You are trapped. The marriage contract is no longer a distant threat. It is an iron reality being hammered into shape by lawyers and scribes. Your father is in a state of triumphant obsession, meeting with advisors, dictating letters, and planning the grand procession that will deliver you to your new life. You realize you cannot simply run away. Where would you go? A noble woman alone in the medieval countryside would be a target, a prize for any brute or ambitious knight who found her. The convent is not an option. Your father would never allow it now, not when a crown is at stake. Your vow of chastity, so powerful and real to you, is invisible. It's a ghost shield. You need something solid, something undeniable. One night, you steal away to the chapel again. The moonlight is fuller now, casting milky pools of light on the stone floor. You kneel before the altar, but this time you don't look at the serene face of the Virgin Mary. You look at the crucifix beside her. A carved, suffering Christ, his wooden body gaunt, his face a mask of holy agony. You have been taught that suffering can be a form of prayer, that sacrifice is pleasing to God. You have read stories of saints who mortified their flesh, who welcomed pain as a way to come closer to the divine. But you don't want pain. You want release. And that's when the prayer forms, not in your mind, but in a deeper place, a place of pure, instinctual need. You are valued for your beauty. Your face, your smooth skin, your long, flowing hair, these are the gilded bars of your cage. So you pray to have them taken away. You pray for the one thing a noble woman should never ever want. Lord, you whisper the word raw in the echoing silence. You see my plight. You know the vow I made to you. Save me from this marriage. Save me from this king. Make me undesirable. Make me loathsome in his eyes. It's a shocking prayer, a subversion of everything you have been taught to value. to pray for beauty, for a clear complexion, for shining hair. That was normal. Girls and women did it all the time, often using folk charms and prayers to saints like Mary Magdalene, the patroness of beautiful hair. But to pray for the opposite, it feels like a transgression, a dangerous and desperate gamble. You press your forehead to the cold stone of the altar steps. Take this face, you plead. Take this form that they covet. Make me something no man would ever want to marry. I will bear any ugliness, any affliction, if it will save me for you. In that moment, you are not thinking of the consequences. You are not thinking of the shame, the horror, the ostracism. You are a drowning person, and you are not asking for the water to transform into something unbreathable, to force your captors to let you go. This idea of divine disfigurement as a form of salvation is a strange and recurring thread in the tapestry of medieval belief. Scholars who study the lives of saints, a field called hagiography, are fascinated by this. They point out that in a world where a woman's body was her primary commodity, transforming that body into something unmarketable was a radical act of spiritual defiance. It was a rejection of the entire social and economic system that imprisoned women. Historians still argue about the origins of your specific legend. Some believe it may have been a conflation of several stories, or perhaps even a misunderstanding of a piece of art, a heavily robed, long-haired and bearded crucifix from the east, the Volta Santo of Lucca, which some pilgrims may have mistaken for a crucified woman. But for you, kneeling in this chapel, there are no art historians. There is only you, your vow, and your terrifying prayer. You stay there for what feels like hours, your whispered pleas growing more and more fervent. You are offering your own beauty as a sacrifice on the altar. You are asking God to become a divine vandal, to mar his own creation to save it. You imagine a face covered in sores, a body twisted and lame. You don't specify the means. You just pray for the result. You give God a blank canvas and beg him to paint a monster. Finally, exhausted, you rise. A sense of profound emptiness fills you. You have done the only thing you can think of. You have placed your fate, your very form, in God's hands. You walk back through the sleeping castle, a sense of dread and strange, wild hope warring within you. You have asked for a miracle. Now all you can do is wait, and wonder what a miracle of ugliness would look like, and what it would feel like when it arrived. You touch your own smooth cheek as you climb into bed. It feels like the face of a stranger. Life, for the next week, continues its relentless march toward your wedding. Seamstresses arrive, unrolling bolts of crimson silk that whisper as they move across the floor. They measure you, their hands cool and impersonal, their chatter a meaningless hum in your ears. You stand as still as a statue, your mind a churning sea of hope and fear. Every morning you wake up and rush to your polished silver mirror, tilting it to catch the dawn light. You scan your face with a desperate intensity. You half expect to see some dramatic, overnight transformation, a blotch, a scar, a terrible rash. But every day, the same face stares back, a perfect porcelain face. Your prayers seem to have vanished into the stone ceiling of the chapel, unheard. A shiver of despair begins to creep in. Maybe God has abandoned you. Maybe your prayer was too audacious, too strange. Maybe your father is right, and your destiny is simply to be a queen in a foreign land, your secret vow, a forgotten whisper. You start to feel the weight of resignation settling on your shoulders. You are just a girl, and the world is a very large, very powerful machine. Then, one afternoon, it begins. It is not a dramatic thunderclap or a blinding light. It's a tiny, almost unapproachable sensation. You are sitting at the window, listlessly watching the grooms exercise the horses in the courtyard below. And you feel an itch. A peculiar, persistent tickle, right on the point of your chin. You scratch it obstinately with the back of your finger. It fades, then returns. It's not like a mosquito bite, sharp and angry. It's a deeper, more internal feeling, tingling sensation right beneath the skin. You ignore it at first. It's nothing. A stray thread from your veil, an irritation from the lead-based powder on your face. You go to supper. You sit through another long, formal meal, listening to your father discuss the logistics of your journey to Sicily with a visiting knight. The night, a florid man with a booming laugh, keeps glancing at you, his eyes filled with a sycophantic admiration that makes your skin crawl. And all the while, the itch is there, secret pulse on your chin and along your jawline. You have to clench your hands in your lap to keep from scratching. Later, in your room, you dismiss your maid quickly. You go to the mirror. The candlelight is flickering, making shadows dance. You stare at your chin, turning your head from side to side. You see nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just smooth, pale skin. Yet the feeling is still there, a phantom sensation. Is it real? Are you imagining it? Medieval medicine had a fascinating, and to us, utterly bizarre understanding of the body. Physicians would have likely diagnosed your itch based on the theory of the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. An itch might have been seen as an excess of one humor, perhaps caused by a poor diet or a melancholic disposition. Their solution would have been something like a change in what you eat, or worse, a bit of bloodletting to rebalance things. The idea of an itch as a precursor to something else was not in their medical vocabulary. You splash your face with cool water from the ceramic basin on your washed sand. The sensation subsides for a moment, and you feel a wave of relief. It was your imagination, a product of your feverish anxiety. You climb into your high curtained bed, the linen sheets cool against your skin, but just as you are drifting towards sleep, the feeling returns. It's not just an itch anymore. It's a strange prickling warmth, as if tiny, invisible needles are gently pushing up from within. You lie there in the darkness, one hand pressed against your jaw, your heart thumping. It feels like growth, a wordless biological process, as slow and unstoppable as a root pushing through soil. Historians and theologians have long debated the nature of miracles in saints' lives. Were they literal supernatural events, or were they allegorical, symbolic stories meant to convey a deeper spiritual truth? In your case, the debate is particularly sharp. Some have tried to find a rational, medical explanation for your story, suggesting you might have had a rare hormonal condition, perhaps hirsutism, which was then interpreted through the lens of faith. They argue that a sudden onset of facial hair, a terrifying and inexplicable event for a young woman, was reframed as an answer to a prayer, a way to make sense of a biological catastrophe. But in this moment, lying in your bed, feeling this uncanny, tingling bloom on your face, there are no rational explanations. There is only the terrifying, exhilarating thought: He heard me. God heard my prayer. And this is His answer. You don't know whether to weep with joy or with terror. So you do neither. You just lie there, perfectly still in the darkness, feeling the first impossible stirrings of your monstrous salvation. The next few days are a blur of secret, terrified inspections. The polished silver mirror has become your enemy and your only confidant. You wake before dawn while your maids are still sleeping, and you rush to it, angling it to catch the first grey light of morning. At first you still see nothing. The tingling sensation comes and goes, a phantom presence on your skin. You begin to doubt your own senses, wondering if the stress of the impending marriage is making you mad. Then, one morning you see it. It is so small, so insignificant, that at first you think it's a speck of dust or a stray fiber from your woolen blanket. You lean closer, your nose almost touching the cool, distorted surface of the silver, and you see that it is not dust. It is a hair. A single, impossibly fine, dark hair, no longer than an eyelash, sprouting from the point of your chin. Your breath catches in your throat. You touch it with the tip of your finger. It's real, soft, but definitely there. A tiny, dark flag planted on the smooth territory of your face. Panic, cold and sharp, lances through you. This is what you prayed for. This is the miracle. But the reality of it is so much more intimate and horrifying than you had imagined. You look closer, and you see another, and another. They are like the faintest pencil strokes, barely visible unless the light is just right. A delicate, shadowy down is emerging along your jawline, a soft, dusky path from ear to ear. It's not a beard, it's the ghost of a beard, the promise of one to come. Your first instinct is to get rid of it. You look at the small, sharp knife you use for sharpening your quills. You wonder if you could. You wonder if you could shave it away, deny the miracle, and erase this terrifying answer to your prayer. For a moment, you are just a girl, a terrified girl who wants her old face back. But then you remember the pagan king. The ships being prepared in the harbor. The life that awaits you. This is your only weapon. A grotesque, sprouting shield. To shave it away would be to surrender. So you leave it, and you begin to live a life of careful concealment. You spend more time in the shadows of your room. When your maids dress you, you keep your chin tilted down, hoping the high, stiff collar of your gown will hide the nascent change. You feel their eyes on you, and you wonder what they see. Do they notice? Are they whispering about it when you leave the room? The history of facial hair is a surprisingly complex and culturally significant topic. In your medieval world, a beard was an unambiguous sign of masculinity, of virility and authority. Kings, knights, and holy prophets were depicted with beards. Smooth skin, on the other hand, was the mark of the feminine and the youthful. For a woman to grow a beard was not just a cosmetic issue. It was a profound violation of the natural order. It was a sign of something deeply wrong, either medically or spiritually. Some medieval texts describe bearded women, almost always in the context of monstrous births, witchcraft, or demonic possession. They were aberrations, unnatural creatures who blurred the sacred line between man and woman. There was no category for a wholly bearded woman. You were, quite literally, becoming something that your world had no name for. That evening at dinner, you feel 100 pairs of eyes on you, though it's probably just your own paranoia. You keep your gaze fixed on your plate, using your napkin to dab at your mouth more often than necessary. A small, desperate gesture of concealment. Your father is talking, his voice a proud boom, about the magnificent wedding gifts that have begun to arrive from Sicily. Chests of spices, bolts of cloth of gold, and a cage of brightly colored birds you have not yet seen. Every word he says is a nail in the coffin of your old life. And with every word, you feel the strange, tingling growth on your face as a kind of counter-rhythm, a secret and silent rebellion. Later that night, unable to sleep, you go to the mirror again. You take a single candle, holding it close to your face. The light is warm and direct, and in its unforgiving glow, you can see the truth. The down is thicker now, darker. It is no longer a faint shadow. It is a soft, visible fuzz. It is unmistakably the beginning of a beard. And for the first time, looking at this strange, new reflection, a wild, terrifying thought sparks in your mind. It's working. You are becoming a monster. And you are being saved. You stare at the girl in the mirror, this new girl with the shadowed jaw, and you see a stranger you are only just beginning to know. A stranger who might, just might, be free. The secret, you soon discover, is a heavy thing to carry alone. The strain of constant concealment begins to wear on you. You become an expert in shadows, in turning your face away from the light at just the right moment. You perfect the art of the downward glance, the demure tilt of the head that was once a sign of modesty, but is now a vital to love deception. But you cannot live in the shadows forever. Your ladies-in-waiting are the first to truly notice. They are young women of your own age, daughters of your father's vassals, and their lives are a mixture of service and constant, vigilant observation. Their job is to attend to your needs, but also to report on your health, your moods, your every deviation from the norm. And they are beginning to see a deviation. It starts with a glance. One of them, a girl named Isabella with sharp bird-like eyes, is helping you with your hair. Your hair is your crowning glory, long and thick and the color of dark honey. As she braids it, her fingers brushing against your neck and the underside of your jaw, she pauses for a fraction of a second. You feel the halt in her movement, a tiny snag in the smooth fabric of the morning ritual. You don't dare look at her face in the mirror. She says nothing. She resumes her work, but something has changed. An unspoken question now hangs in the air between you. A few days later, you hear them. You are returning to your chamber from the chapel, your soft slippers making no sound in the stone corridor. As you approach the heavy oak door, you hear their voices from within, low and urgent. Whispers. You stop pressing yourself flat against the cold, damp stone of the wall, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. Did you see it? One voice says. It's Isabella. In the sunlight by the window, it's like a shadow on her skin. I thought it was dust from the tapestries. Another voice, softer, more hesitant. That's Eleanor. No, Isabella insists, her voice sharp with a mixture of fear and morbid excitement. It's not dust. I think it's hair, like a boy's when his beard first comes. A horrified silence. Then a third voice, Beatrice, her tone laced with superstition. My grandmother told me of a woman in her village who consorted with a demon. She grew a beard as a mark of her sin. Hush. Isabella hisses. The physicians say it's an imbalance of the humors. That her blood is too hot and dry, my commands. The conversation is a dizzying, terrifying glimpse into how the world is trying to explain you. Historians often point out that in the medieval mindset, there was no clear line between the medical and the supernatural. An unusual physical condition could be interpreted as a medical problem, a divine sign or a demonic curse, all at the same time, and often by the same people. The physicians saw a humoral imbalance. The common folk steeped in folklore saw the devil's work. Neither of them could conceive of it as an answer to a prayer. You lean your head against the stone, the rough texture pressing into your cheek. They are talking about you as if you are a curiosity, a problem, a monster, not a person. You feel a wave of profound loneliness wash over you. Your miracle, your desperate shield, is also an impenetrable wall cutting you off from everyone around you. You push the door open. The whispering stops instantly. 3 pairs of eyes fix on you, wide and startled. The air in the room is thick with their interrupted words, with their fear and suspicion. They curtsy, their movements stiff and unnatural. The easy, familiar rhythms of your life together are gone, replaced by a tense, watchful silence. From that day on, a new and terrible phase of your life begins. You are no longer just hiding your face, you are managing their fear. You see how they avoid looking directly at you, how they flinch almost imperceptibly if their hands brush against your jaw. They do their duties with a brisk, fearful efficiency, their chatter now replaced by a heavy quiet. The whispers don't stop, of course. You just don't hear them anymore. They happen in other rooms and other corridors, a ripple of rumor and horror spreading through the stone veins of the castle. The princess is afflicted. The princess is cursed. The princess is changing. You are becoming a legend in your own home, a cautionary tale whispered by candlelight. And the king from Sicily is still coming. The days are ticking by, and with each passing day, the soft, downy shadow on your face grows just a little darker, a little more impossible to hide. The whispers finally reach your mother. She is a woman who navigates the world through a delicate web of proprieties and appearances. A daughter with a condition is a tear in that web, a thread to the carefully woven order of her life. She doesn't confront you directly. That would be too coarse to real. Instead, she begins a campaign of subtle, desperate remedies. One morning 2 men arrive at your chamber. They are not the usual court physicians with their velvet robes and solemn expressions. These men are older, their faces lined, their hands stained with herbs. They are healers, summoned from a distant village, known for their knowledge of ancient, folk remedies. They bow low, their eyes avoiding your face, and begin to unpack their leather satchels. The room quickly fills with the pungent, earthy smells of dried roots, strange barks, and mysterious powders. Your mother stands in the doorway, her face a tight mask of anxiety, and explains that you have been looking pale, that your humors are clearly out of balance. It is a lie, a thin veil draped over a horrifying truth, and everyone in the room knows it. You are subjected to a series of bizarre and humiliating treatments. They make you drink a bitter, foul-tasting tea, a concoction of dandelion root and burdock that is supposed to cool the blood and purge the masculine heat from your body. You drink it obediently, the vile liquid coating your tongue, knowing it will do nothing. Then comes the poultice. They mix a thick, green paste of crushed herbs, vinegar, and something that smells vaguely like goat's milk. One of the men, his hands surprisingly gentle, spreads the cold, slimy mixture all over your lower face. It feels disgusting, and it itches as it begins to dry and crack. You are instructed to sit perfectly still by the fire for an hour, a green, crusty mask of folk medicine, while the old men mutter incantations under their breath. This is a fascinating intersection of pre-Christian folk magic and early medieval medicine. Historians who study these practices note that for the common person, there was little distinction between a prayer to a saint and a chant over a healing herb. Both were ways of appealing to unseen forces for a desired result. Your mother, a devout Christian duchess, has in her desperation resorted to the half-pagan practices of the countryside. The poultice does nothing, of course. When they wash it off, the soft, dark down on your jaw is still there, perhaps even a little more noticeable against your red and irritated skin. The healers pack their bags, accept a purse of coins from your mother, and leave as quietly as they came. They have failed. Next, your father, a man of more direct and less superstitious methods, sends for the court physician. This is a man trained in the medical texts of the ancient Greeks, a man of science, such as it is. He is a formidable figure, draped in robes trimmed with fur. He examines you, not by looking too closely at your face, but by studying your urine in a glass flask, scrutinizing its color and clarity. He holds your wrist, his fingers pressed against your pulse, his expression grave. He asks you questions about your diet, your sleep, your monthly cycles. He doesn't mention the beard. He talks around it, using vague, scholarly terms. He diagnoses you with an excess of choler, a viral distemper of the blood. His prescription is both predictable and terrifying: bloodletting. It is the go-to cure for almost everything. He produces a small, gleaming instrument called a lancet. Your ladies-in-waiting turn pale. You, however, feel a strange calm. You have prayed for affliction, and now the world is bringing it to you in spades. You sit in a high-backed chair while the physician makes a small, sharp cut in the crook of your arm. The blood, shockingly red, wells up and begins to drip into a brass bowl. You watch it dispassionately, as if it belongs to someone else. The room is silent except for the soft ping of the blood hitting the metal. The belief was that by removing the bad blood, the body could restore its natural, healthy balance. It was a painful, often dangerous procedure that could easily lead to infection or weakness. Scholars still debate whether bloodletting ever did any good at all, with many concluding it likely did far more harm, a testament to how a flawed theory could dominate medical practice for centuries. They take a bowl of your blood, and you are left feeling light-headed and weak. The physician packs away his tools, assures your father that with a few more sessions, your feminine humors will be restored, and takes his leave. You are helped to your bed, your head spinning. You touch your jawline. The soft, dark hair is still there, unchanged, untouched. You have been purged and poulticed, bled and prayed over. They have tried to cure you of your miracle. Holy affliction is stronger than their science, stronger than magic. It is growing, day by day, a silent, furry testament to a prayer God all too well. The failure of the cures, both mystical and medical, forces a change in tactics. If the affliction cannot be removed, it must be hidden. The era of denial is over. The era of concealment has begun in earnest. Your mother, her face etched with a permanent, weary grief, makes a decision. From now on, you will wear a veil. It's not the light, translucent silk that some noble women wear for modesty or flirtation. This is a thick, opaque square of linen, and later, as the situation becomes more desperate, of dark velvet. It is designed not to enhance your mystery, but to obliterate your face. It covers you from your forehead to your collarbone, with only a small slit for your eyes. From the moment it is placed over your head, your world changes. Your vision is narrowed to a sliver of corridor, a slice of the world seen through a moving window. You have to turn your whole head to see something to your side. Your other senses are heightened. You hear the rustle of your own garments, the echo of your footsteps on the stone, the sound of your own breathing, trapped and amplified in the small space between your face and the fabric. The world becomes muffled, distant. It's like living inside a small, dark tent that you can never take off. The veil becomes your new skin, your new identity. You are no longer the beautiful daughter of the Duke. You are the veiled lady. In the castle, People fall silent when you pass. They no longer whisper, they simply stare at the blank, featureless column of fabric that glides through the halls. They don't need to see your face to know the story. The veil itself is a confession, a walking admission of a shame too great to be seen. Beneath the veil, your secret continues to flourish. The soft down thickens, the individual hairs becoming coarser, longer. It is no longer a shadow. It is a texture. Sometimes, you lift the veil in the privacy of your room and touch it. It feels both alien and intimately your own. A strange, soft armor. It's not historical irony that veils, so often seen as a tool of female suppression, become your only means of freedom of movement. Without it, you would be entirely confined to your chamber. You can at least walk the cold corridors of your own home. You eat your meals alone now in your room. The logistics of eating with the veil are too complicated, too humiliating. A servant leaves a tray by your door, knocks, and scurries away. You sit in solitude, lifting the heavy fabric with one hand to bring food to your mouth, feeling like a leper, an outcast in your own home. The loneliness is a physical presence, a cold weight in your chest. You wonder if this was part of the bargain. You wonder if, when you prayed for ugliness, you understood it would come with this profound, crushing isolation. Historians who study the social customs of the Middle Ages are fascinated by the powerful symbolism of clothing. Garments were not just for warmth or modesty, they were a language. A king's ermine robe, a monk's coarse brown habit. They all proclaimed a person's identity and place in the world. Your veil, in this context, is a powerful statement. It signifies that you are outside the normal order of women. You are no longer marriageable, no longer part of the social fabric. You have been, in a very real sense, erased. Yet, there's an ongoing debate among scholars about the agency of women in this. Some see the veil as purely a symbol of male control, an imposition from your parents. Others argue that women could, and did, adopt the veil for their own reasons, for piety, for protection, or in a case like yours, a strategic tool. They wonder if you, in some way, welcome the veil as a shield, a way to control who could see you, a final, desperate claim to privacy. Days bleed into weeks. You'll lose track of time. Your world is the view from your arrow-slit window, the stories in your book of saints, and the growing reality of what is happening on your own face. The beard is now undeniable. It is soft but full. It curls slightly along your jaw. If you were a young man, a squire just reaching adulthood, it would be a mark of pride. Bunyan, beneath the suffocating darkness of the veil, it is a monstrous secret. You wonder what the Sicilian king will do when he sees you. The thought is a cold knot of dread in your stomach. The veil is a temporary solution, a flimsy fabric wall against an approaching army. And that army is getting closer every day. The silence of your veiled world is shattered by the sound of a horn. It's not the familiar blast of the hunting horn, but a sharper, more urgent sound from beyond the castle walls. You are in your chamber, tracing the faded figures on a tapestry with your finger, and the sound makes you freeze. It is the signal for an important arrival. You move to the arrow-slit window, your narrow portal to the world, and you see him, a single rider on a lathered horse, galloping across the drawbridge. He carries a banner you don't recognize, but it is bright with colors, a flash of foreign pageantry against the grey stone of your home. A new kind of energy, a frantic, nervous hum, immediately floods the castle. Doors slam. Hasty footsteps echo in the corridors. Voices are raised in the courtyard below. The messenger has arrived, and he can only be from one place. Within the hour, the news is confirmed. The Sicilian king's delegation, with the king himself at its head, is making its way through your father's lands. They are a mere 2 days' ride away. 2 days. The words feel like hammer blows. The abstract threat that has haunted you for months is now a concrete reality with a deadline. In 2 days, the man you are promised to will be here. The pressure inside the castle becomes immense. It's a physical thing, a tightening in the air. A great medieval household was a machine of hospitality, and that machine now roars to life. Servants rush to air out the finest guest chambers which have been sealed against dust and moths. The cooks in the kitchen, their faces already flushed from the heat, begin the monumental task of planning feasts to last for a week or more. The head baker fires up the great second oven, a beast of brick and clay used only for the grandest occasions. This level of hospitality was a crucial display of power and wealth, but it was also a logistical nightmare. Just imagine feeding an extra 200 people, knights, squires, clerks, and servants, for a week. The amount of bread, wine, and meat required was staggering. Your father is transformed from a proud, brooding man into a storm of frantic energy. He strides through the castle bellowing orders, his face a thunderous mask of anxiety. His reputation, his honor, and the future of his duchy are all riding on this visit. Everything must be perfect. The silver must be polished, the finest tapestries hung, the entertainment for the evenings planned. And the bride must be flawless. He comes to your chamber that evening. He dismisses your ladies-in-waiting with a sharp, angry gesture. He is the first person other than you to see you without your veil in weeks. He stands before you, and for a long moment he just stares. His eyes travel over the soft, dark beard that now fully covers your jaw and chin. It is a proper beard now, not just a shadow. It is undeniable. His face, which was already flushed with stress, deepens to a dark, dangerous red. You see a flicker of something in his eyes. Not horror, not anymore. He has moved past that. What you see is a cold, desperate fury. This thing, he says, his voice a low growl. He gestures at your face with a trembling hand. This curse, it will be hidden. You understand me. You say nothing. You just look at him, your heart a cold stone in your chest. You will wear your thickest veil, he commands. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will sit in shadow. He is coming to sign the final contract and to see his bride. We will get through the ceremony. Once you are his problem. The coldness of it is breathtaking. He is not trying to understand. He is not trying to understand. He is trying to offload damaged goods. This is a stark illustration of a debate that still circulates among historians of the period. To what degree was a betrothal considered a binding contract even before the wedding? For your father, the political and financial agreements are the real marriage. The ceremony is just a formality. He believes the king of Sicily is already bound by honor and treaty. The idea that the king might reject you, might take this as a mortal insult, seems to be a possibility too terrifying for your father to even contemplate. He is operating on pure, desperate denial. He leans closer, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. If you do anything to jeopardize this, I swear to you, girl, you will wish you had never been born. You will be a perfect bride. He turns and storms out of the room, slamming the heavy door behind him. The sound echoes in the sudden silence. You are left there, your face bare in the candlelight, his words hanging in the air like poison. In 2 days you will be presented like a prize. A veiled, silent, bearded prize. Your prayer was for God to make you undesirable. Now, you are about to find out if a king's desire is stronger than your God's miracle. The next 48 hours are a slow-motion nightmare. The castle buzzes with an all level of activity, but your chamber is an island of suffocating quiet. You feel like the calm at the center of a hurricane, a still, silent point of impending doom. Your maids move around you with a new kind of terror in their eyes. They are no longer just afraid of your affliction, they are afraid of your father's wrath. They dress you in the gown that has been prepared for the formal betrothal ceremony. It is a masterpiece of crimson velvet, so heavy with gold embroidery that you feel like you are wearing armor. The sleeves are long and pointed, almost touching the floor, a fashionable but impractical design that speaks of a life of pure leisure. Your father's denial is a force of nature. He does not visit you again. He does not ask about you. As far as he is concerned, the problem of your face has been solved by the simple application of a dark piece of cloth. He is engaged in a monumental act of magical thinking, a desperate belief that if he ignores the monstrous reality in the heart of his castle, it will simply cease to exist. This kind of willful blindness is a powerful human trait, and historians see it playing out on grand scales throughout history. Leaders who ignore clear signs of an impending rebellion, economies that barrel toward a cliff everyone can see but no one will acknowledge. Your father's denial is a microcosm of this. He has invested so much, his pride, his political future, his wealth, in this one single outcome, this marriage, that he is mentally incapable of processing any evidence that it might not happen. The political and social stakes are too high. To admit that his daughter is what you are would be to admit a catastrophic failure, a weakness in his own lineage, a potential sign of God's disfavor. It is easier to believe in the power of a veil than to face that truth. On the morning of the king's arrival, your mother comes to you. Her face is pale and drawn, her eyes red-rimmed. She holds the veil in her hands. It's a new one, made of the same heavy crimson velvet as your gown. She places it over your head herself, her fingers trembling slightly. She doesn't speak. There are no words of comfort, no maternal reassurances. There is only a shared, unspoken terror. As she adjusts the fabric, her hand brushes against your cheek, against the soft, full beard beneath. You feel her flinch, a tiny, convulsive movement, before she pulls her hand away as if burned. In that single, heartbreaking gesture, you understand the depth of your isolation. Even your own mother cannot bear to touch you. You are led from your room and positioned at the back of the great hall in a high-backed chair set deep in the shadows of a tapestry. You are an object, a prop to be revealed at the proper moment. You sit there, a statue of red velvet, your world reduced to the sliver of the hall you can see through your eye slit. You can hear the rising excitement, the clatter of armor in the courtyard, the whinnying of tired horses. And then the trumpets sound. A long, clear, triumphant blast. They are here. The great doors of the hall swing open, and a river of color and noise pours in. You see them through your narrow slit, powerful men, dressed in foreign styles, their faces weathered from travel, their voices loud and confident. They are laughing, exuding an aura of power that makes your father's court seem provincial and dull. And at their head is the king. You can only see him in glimpses, a flash of a dark, bearded face, a normal beard, a king's beard, a glint of gold at his throat, a confident, predatory stride. He is not old or ugly. He is a man in his prime, a warrior king, radiating an almost frightening vitality. He and your father embrace, a formal, masculine hug that is more about sizing each other up than affection. They proceed to the high table, and the feast begins. Course after course is brought out on massive silver platters. A whole-roasted peacock, its feathers reattached in a grotesque display of culinary art, is paraded through the hall. Minstrels play in the gallery. Wine flows. Laughter echoes off the stone walls. And you sit in your shadowed corner, a silent, veiled ghost at the edge of the celebration. No one looks at you. No one acknowledges you. You are the secret, the problem, the bomb that has not yet gone off. Your father is playing for time, hoping to seal the final contracts, to bind the king with wine and hospitality and promises of land, before the bride is finally, formally revealed. His denial is not just a state of mind, it has become a desperate, reckless strategy. Hours pass. The feast, a carefully orchestrated performance of power and plenty, unfolds with agonizing slowness. From your shadowed corner, you watch the scene as if it were a play. The light from the torches in the massive central hearth flickers, making the tapestries seem to writhe and the jewels on the courtier's clothes glitter like captured stars. The air grows thick with the smells of roasted meat, spilled wine, wood smoke, and sweat. The laughter becomes louder, coarser, as the wine takes hold. You are invisible, a silent observer, and this detachment gives you a strange clarity. You see the strained smile on your father's face, the way his eyes keep darting towards you, a nervous tick he cannot control. You see the Sicilian king, leaning back in his chair, a lion at ease, confident and supreme. Finally, the moment comes. The platters have been cleared, the last of the sweetmeats consumed. A hush falls over the hall. Your father rises, a goblet of wine in his hand. His voice, artificially steady, booms across the space. He speaks of friendship, of alliance, of the joining of two great houses. He raises his goblet to the Sicilian king. And then he turns, his eyes finding you in the shadows, and he beckons. And now he declares, I present to you my greatest treasure. My daughter. Two guards step forward. It's not a gentle invitation. Their hands on your elbows are firm, insistent. They guide you from the shadows out into the center of the hall, into the full, merciless light of the torches. You feel hundreds of pairs of eyes on you. The silence in the hall is now absolute, a heavy, expectant blanket. You can hear the crackle of the fire. You can hear the blood pounding in your own ears. You are brought to a halt a few feet from the high table. You stand before the Sicilian king, your head bowed, the heavy velvet of the veil a suffocating curtain between you and the world. This is the climax of your father's desperate gamble. He is hoping the king will be so captivated by the richness of your gown, by the demure mystery of your veiled form, that he will accept you without question, the deal sealed before the goods are inspected. But the king is no fool. He is a predator, and he is curious. He leans forward, his dark eyes, which you can just make out through the slit, narrowing. A beautiful prize indeed, he says, his voice laced with a faint, mocking amusement. But a man likes to see what he is acquiring. The words are a command, not a request. A cold dread washes over you. This is it. The veil, your last defense, is about to be torn away. Your father hesitates for a fraction of a second. A bead of sweat trickles down his temple. But to refuse would be a mortal insult. He gives a curt, almost imperceptible nod to one of your ladies in waiting, who stands nearby, her face as pale as milk. The girl, Isabella, approaches you, her hands trembling so much she can barely function. She reaches for the clasp that holds the veil at the back of your head. And then your father's patience snaps. The delicate pretense, the whole fragile charade, is taking too long to crumble. He is a man of violence, and his terror has curdled into a volcanic rage. He strides forward, pushing the fumbling lady in waiting aside. Allow me, he snarls, his voice a guttural sound of pure fury. Before you can react, he grabs the front of your veil with both hands. He rips it from your head. The motion is violent, tearing the delicate clasps, pulling a few strands of your hair with it. The heavy velvet falls away, and your face is revealed. For a moment, there is only a stunned, collective intake of breath. The entire hall, filled with hundreds of people, seems to hold its breath as one. In the flickering torchlight, they see you. The beautiful, high-born maiden, with a full, soft, dark beard. It is a sight so impossible, so contrary to the laws of nature and God, that their minds cannot immediately process it. It is the face of a monster from a fever dream, standing there in a princess's gown. Then the spell breaks. A woman screams. A man gasps, a choked, horrified sound. And then the whispers begin, a sibilant, rushing wave of sound that sweeps through the hall. A demon, sorcery, unnatural. You don't look at the crowd. You don't look at the crowd. You look at one person. The Sicilian king. He is still leaning forward, but he is no longer amused. His face is a mask of disbelief, which quickly coalesces into disgust, and then into pure, cold fury. He looks from your face to your father's, and he understands. He has been offered a monster, a freak, as a bride. This is not a marriage proposal. This is an insult of unimaginable proportions. Your father didn't just strip off your veil. He ripped apart his own world. The unveiling is not a single, clean moment of revelation. It is like a stone dropped into a still pond, and the ripples of shock and horror spread outwards, gaining momentum. The immediate reaction is a wave of raw, primitive fear. The courtiers and servants closest to you physically recoil, some stumbling backwards as if you had suddenly sprouted claws and fangs. A page boy, no older than 10, drops a silver flagon of wine, which clatters on the stone floor, the sound unnaturally loud in the tense silence that follows the initial gasps. Then the second ripple begins, interpretation. In a world steeped in theology and superstition, such a profoundly unnatural sight cannot be simply a random occurrence. It must mean something, and in the great hall a frantic, impromptu theological debate erupts in hushed, terrified tones. It is a demonic mark. One man, a portly baron with a face like purple fruit, declares to his neighbor, "She is possessed. Her father has tried to foist a devil's bride upon our guest. His wife, clutching a crucifix that hangs from her neck, shakes her head. No, no, she whispers, her eyes wide with fear. It is a sign of witchcraft. She has made a pact for unnatural power. These interpretations of demonic possession or witchcraft were the default explanations for many things that defied understanding in the medieval world. Historians who study the great witch hunts of later centuries trace their roots back to this kind of ingrained folk belief. The idea that the strange, the deformed, and the socially disruptive were often agents of supernatural evil. Your very existence, in this moment, is a piece of evidence for their darkest fears. But then a third voice joins the fray. A visiting friar, a thin, ascetic man with burning eyes, who had been sitting at the lower tables, steps forward. He raises a bony finger and points it at you. His voice is not a whisper, it is a clear, ringing pronouncement. Do not be so quick to see the devil's work, he calls out, and a pocket of silence forms around him. The Lord made Job suffer with boils to test his faith. Perhaps this is not accursed. Perhaps this is not accursed. A holy trial. Suddenly a new and even more confusing possibility is thrown into the mix. This monstrosity could not possibly be holy. The idea is almost more disturbing than the thought of witchcraft. It introduces a paradox that their minds struggle to contain. A trial. The portly baron scoffs, emboldened now that the debate is out in the open. She looks like a goat in a gown. It is an abomination. The blessed Saint Agnes was stripped bare in a brothel. The friar retorts, his voice rising with passion, and God made her hair grow to cover her acquaintances. We cannot question the strange means by which the Almighty protects the virtue of his servants. He is referencing a well-known story from your own book of saints. And for a fleeting second, you feel a flicker of connection to this strange, fiery man. He has, without knowing it, stumbled closer to the truth than anyone else. But his words only add fuel to the fire. The whole divides into factions. In one corner, people are crossing themselves, muttering prayers for protection against the evil they see in you. In another, they are staring at you with a new, fearful curiosity, wondering if they are in the presence of a cursed soul or a living saint. The debate about whether your beard was a sign of divine favor or demonic influence is not just a detail of your story, it's a central theme in your later legend. For centuries, theologians and common folk would argue over your nature. Was your disfigurement a punishment or a reward, a mark of shame or a badge of honor? This ambiguity is precisely what makes your story so compelling and so enduring. You are a holy monster, a sacred freak, a figure who collapses the neat categories of good and evil, beautiful and ugly, saintly and demonic. While this debate rages in murmurs and shouts around the hall, you stand frozen, the object of all this fear and speculation. You are no longer a person. You are a text, a riddle that everyone is trying to decipher. But you are not looking at them. You are looking at your father. He stands beside you, his face ashen, his knuckles white where he is gripping the hilt of his sword. He is listening to the arguments, and you can see the dawning, catastrophic realization on his face. Political problem, a daughter who wouldn't marry. Now in the space of a single violent gesture, he has created a dozen more. He has a diplomatic crisis with Sicily, a potential heresy trial on his hands, and a court that is now fractured by fear and superstition. He has unleashed a whirlwind, and you are standing together in its terrible, silent eye. The Sicilian king has been silent through all of this. He hasn't moved. He has simply sat at the high table, his knuckles resting on the dark, polished wood, and watched the chaos erupt. He has listened to the whispers of demon and witch in the friars while talk of holy trials. His face has remained a stony, unreadable mask, but now he rises, and the hall, which had been a sea of murmuring voices, falls instantly, deathly silent. He is not a large man, you now see, but he possesses an immense, coiled energy. When he speaks, his voice is not loud, but it cuts through the silence like a shard of ice. He does not address the crowd. He does not even look at you. He speaks directly to your father. So he begins, the single word dripping with a cold, lethal sarcasm. This is your greatest treasure. He lets the words hang in the air for a moment, letting their full, insulting weight be felt. A bearded bride. A monster from a child's nightmare. You bring me here, across the sea, with promises of a royal match. a queen for my kingdom. He gestures towards you with a flick of his wrist, a gesture of profound, dismissive contempt. It's as if he is pointing out a piece of spoiled meat. You feel a strange, cold detachment. This is what you prayed for, to be loathsome in his eyes. Your prayer has been answered with a terrifying completeness. Your father, his face pale and slick with sweat, tries to speak. Your Majesty, there is an explanation of sickness. The king cuts him off with a sharp, brutal laugh. A sickness. You must take me for a fool. I don't care if it is a sickness, a demon, or a miracle from your God. You have tried to make a mockery of me. You have tried to bind my kingdom to your cursed and freakish house. He takes a step forward, his hand now resting on the hilt of his own sword. The Sicilian guards, who had been standing at ease along the walls, stiffen and move their hands to their own weapons, cracking with the promise of violence. The marriage pact is broken, the king declares, his voice a low growl. Every word of it is ash. Every promise is a lie. He turns to his chief advisor, a grim-faced man with a scarred cheek. Send word to the ships. We prepare to leave at dawn. Then he turns his cold, furious gaze back to your father. And you will be fortunate if all I do is leave. For an insult of this magnitude, lesser men have had their lands burned and their cities sown with salt. Consider my departure an act of profound mercy. This moment is a masterclass in medieval politics and honor. For a king, a betrothal was not a private, romantic affair. It was a treaty, a public declaration of alliance and mutual respect. To be offered a bride who was seen as physically monstrous was a deep, public humiliation. It implied that your father thought so little of the Sicilian king that he could offer him a bride who was not a proper woman. Historians who study diplomacy in this era emphasize that honor was not an abstract concept. It was the bedrock of power. An unanswered insult could be seen as a sign of weakness, inviting challenges from other rivals. The king's fury is not just personal disgust, it is a calculated political necessity. He must reject you, and reject you publicly and violently to maintain his own status. He spits on the stone floor, a final gesture of contempt. Then, without another word, he turns his back on your father, on you, on the whole disastrous scene. He and his retinue stride towards the great doors of the hall. Their movements are stiff with rage. No one dares to stand in their way. The crowd parts before them like the sea before Moses. The great doors slam shut behind them, the sound echoing like a thunderclap. And, in the ringing silence, your father is left standing in the center of the hall, his face a mask of utter ruin. The alliance is shattered. His name is a joke. His guest has threatened him with war. His carefully constructed world has been brought crushing down. And it is all because of you. He slowly turns his head, and his eye to face. You are no longer his daughter. You are the living, breathing symbol of his complete and utter humiliation. And he is going to make you pay for it. In the aftermath of the king's departure, a new and more terrible silence descends upon the great hall. The Sicilians are gone, their angry footsteps echoing in the courtyard as they prepare for their dawn departure. The courtiers, your father's vassals and their families, remain frozen in place, a captive audience to the final act of this domestic tragedy. They are no longer debating the nature of your affliction. They are simply watching, with a kind of morbid, fearful fascination, to see what a ruined man will do to the source of his ruin. Your father doesn't move for a long time. He seems to have turned to stone, his face a grey, vacant mask. But you can see the storm gathering in his eyes. A pressure is building behind that blank facade, a rage so immense it has burned past the point of shouting. When he finally speaks, his voice is unnerving, calm, a low, dead sound that is far more frightening than his earlier bellows. Guards, he says, without turning his head, seize her. The two guards who would lead you into the light hesitate for a moment, their eyes darting nervously between you and your father. This is the Duke's daughter. Their lord and your father's face is enough. It is the look of a man who has lost everything, a man with nothing left to restrain him. They step forward and grab your arms, their armored gauntlets cold and hard against the soft velvet of your sleeves. Your father walks slowly towards you, his boots heavy on the stone floor. He circles you, his eyes raking over you not with disgust anymore, but with a kind of cold, analytical hatred. He is no longer seeing a daughter, or a monster, or a holy riddle. He is seeing an object, the object that broke his world. You did this, he says, his voice a venomous whisper, with your piety, with your prayers. The words hang in the air. He knows, or he suspects. Perhaps he is just lashing out, but his words strike terrifyingly close to the truth. In his mind, your excessive devotion, your quiet rebellion against his will, has somehow manifested this physical monstrosity. He cannot comprehend the true nature of your prayer, but he understands its intent. He sees your beard not as a random curse, but as a deliberate act of sabotage, a divine treason you have committed against your own family. You prayed to your God, he sneers, his face twisting. You chose him over your king, over your father. You chose a heavenly spouse over a worldly one. Well, let's see how your spouse treats you. Let's give you the same end he met. A collective gasp ripples through the hall. Everyone understands the reference. There is only one end he could possibly be talking about. It is a punishment reserved for the lowest of criminals, a shameful, agonizing death. You wish to be a bride of Christ. Your father says, a terrible, thin smile touching his lips. Then you shall be wedded to him in martyrdom. The sentence is so monstrous, so blasphemous, that it seems to suck the very air from the room. To crucify your own daughter, it is an act of unimaginable cruelty, but is also an act of a twisted, symbolic genius. It is a punishment chosen specifically to mock the very faith you have used to defy him. He is not just killing you, he is making a horrifying statement. He is turning your spiritual devotion into the instrument to the instrument for your public humiliation and death. This is a point where your legend often causes confusion. Crucifixion was a Roman, not a medieval, form of execution. By your time, it had been abandoned for centuries. Historians who question the literal truth of your story often point to this detail as evidence that your tale was a later invention, a biased fiction created by people who were more familiar with the iconography of the Passion of Christ than with the legal realities of the Middle Ages. They argued that a medieval duke, no matter how enraged, would have more likely had you quietly imprisoned in a convent, or even executed by a more conventional means like beheading or hanging. But the power of your story lies not in its historical accuracy, but in its symbolic resonance. The cross is the ultimate symbol of your devotion, and your father, in his rage, chooses to make it the instrument of your destruction. The guards tighten their grip on your arms, their knuckles white. You look at your father's face, at the cold, dead light in his eyes, and you feel no fear. You feel a strange, profound sense of calm. The world of men, of kings and fathers and marriage contracts, has finally done its worst. It has condemned you. And in doing so, it has set you free. Your prayer was for God to save you from a marriage. You never imagined the salvation would look like this. Towards the dungeons, you know that your strange, terrible prayer has been answered in full. The dungeons are exactly as you've always imagined them, a place from folklore and cautionary tales made real. The air is thick and cold, smelling of damp stone, stagnant water, and old despair. The guards drag you down a winding stone staircase, their torch casting huge, leaping shadows that make the walls seem to close in on you. Water drips from the vaulted ceiling, a slow, monotonous rhythm that is the only sound apart from your own shuffling footstep. They throw you into a small, windowless cell. The door is a grate of thick iron bars, and they slam it shut with a deafening clang of metal on stone. The lock screeches as it turns. And then you are alone in the near-total darkness. The torchlight from the corridor recedes, leaving you with only the faintest grey outline of the bars. You sink down onto the damp straw that covers the floor, your heavy velvet gown, now soiled and torn, pooling around you. You are no longer a duke's daughter. You are a condemned prisoner, and you are to be crucified. The word itself feels alien, a piece of ancient history torn from your book of saints and thrust into your own life. Your father's choice of punishment is a subject of endless fascination for those who later study your legend. It is an act of supreme and terrible irony. He intends it as a mockery. So you love Christ so much. He is saying to the world, Then die like him. He wants to shame you, to frame your piety as a crime worthy of this iconic, agonizing death. It's a public performance of paternal rage, designed to erase the humiliation the Sicilian king dealt him by creating an even greater spectacle, one in which the Duke, is in complete, terrifying control. But there is another layer to it, a detail that scholars of your story find particularly compelling. He is not just mimicking the method of Christ's death, he is creating a mocking crucifix. In the Middle Ages, there was a deep and complex visual culture around the crucifixion. Every church, every chapel had its crucifix. People knew the iconography intimately, the crown of thorns, the nails, the wound in the side. Your father is about to create a live, blasphemous parody of the sacred image. He's going to put a bearded woman on a cross. The gender inversion is the core of the mockery. He is presenting your body as a grotesque parody of the body of Christ, your female form and masculine beard a deliberate, visual desecration of the most sacred symbol of his faith. He is trying to show the world that your piety is not just misguided, but a monstrous perversion. You sit in the darkness, and you feel the soft hairs of your beard against your cheek. It was your shield, your miracle. And now it is the very thing that has condemned you. It has marked you as an aberration, a creature so unnatural that the only possible response is to destroy you in the most public and symbolic way imaginable. Hours pass, or maybe it's minutes. Time loses its meaning in the dark. You are not afraid. The fear, the anxiety, the desperate hope, all of that burned away in the great hall. What is left is a profound and almost luminous quiet inside you. You have done what the saints in your book did. You have chosen God over the world, and the world has responded exactly as it responded to them, with incomprehension, with rage, and with a death sentence. A faint light appears at the far end of the corridor. You hear the heavy, rhythmic tramp of footsteps. They are coming for you. The cell door shrieks open. It's not the guards from the hall. These are rougher men, soldiers from the barracks, their faces hard and impersonal. They do not speak to you. They simply haul you to your feet. They lead you out of the dungeons and into the prudon grey of the castle courtyard. The air is cold and sharp, and it feels wonderful on your face after the stale air of the cell. A rough wooden cross, hastily constructed from two thick beams, lies on the cobblestones. It is real. It is not a symbol in a book anymore. It is a thing of splintered wood and iron nails. You look at it, and a line from the holy texts you read floats into your mind. Take up your cross and follow me. You had always thought of it as a metaphor, a call to endure the hardships of a spiritual life. You never, in your wildest, most fervent prayers, imagined it would be a literal instruction. But here it is, your strange and terrible destiny, lying on the ground, waiting for you. The sun is not yet fully risen, but the town that huddles in the shadow of the castle walls is already awake. The news has spread like wildfire, carried by servants and guards, morphing and twisting with each retelling. The princess is a witch. She consorted with a demon and grew a beard. The Sicilian king rejected her, and the duke, in his shame, has condemned her. They are going to crucify her. The story is a potent cocktail of scandal, horror, and blasphemy, and it has drawn the people from their homes. They line the narrow, muddy street that leads from the castle gate to the small hill just outside the town walls where executions normally take place. It's a gallows hill, a place of grim spectacle. You are paraded through them. Your hands are tied in front of you, the rough rope chafing your wrists. 2 guards march on either side of you, their faces grim and impassive. Another walks ahead, clearing the way. Your father does not grant you the dignity of a cart. He wants the people to see you, to gawk at you, to be overwhelmed by the monstrous sight. And they do stare. The faces in the crowd are a blur of emotions. You see morbid curiosity in the eyes of the young men, craning their necks for a better view. You see fear in the faces of the women, who pull their children closer and make the sign of the cross as you pass. You see pity in the eyes of a few, a flicker of compassion for the Duke's daughter, who was once the subject of fairy tales and is now the centerpiece of a nightmare. But mostly, you see a kind of ravenous hunger for spectacle, Public executions in the medieval period were a form of mass entertainment, a civic ritual, and a powerful tool of social control. They were a visual reminder of the power of the Lord and the consequences of transgression. Historians who study the sociology of punishment note that these events were often festive, almost carnival-like, with vendors selling food and drink. Your execution is different. The mood is not festive. It is tense, hushed, and deeply unsettling. You have not committed a recognizable crime like theft or murder. Your crime is your own body. Your transgression is your very existence. And the punishment, crucifixion, is so outside the norm, so deeply blasphemous that it inspires not glee, but a kind of awestruck horror. As you walk your velvet gown, now filthy and dragging in the mud, is a pathetic remnant of your former life. But it's your face they stare at, your beard. In the pale morning light, it is undeniable, a soft, dark frame around your pale face. You hear the whispers ripple through the crowd as you pass. Look at it, just like a man's. Saints preserve us. Is it real? A baker, his hands on apron white with flour, stands in the doorway of his shop, his mouth agape. A group of washerwomen by the public fountain fall silent, their work forgotten, as they watch you go by. You keep your head held high. You do not look at their faces. You look at the sky, which is beginning to lighten from grey to a soft, pearly pink. You focus on the feeling of the cool morning air on your skin. You are walking your final walk, and you are doing it with a strange and serene dignity. You are not a criminal being shamed. You are a soul going to meet its spouse. This procession, which your father designed for your ultimate humiliation, is in your own mind being transformed. It is your wedding procession. The debate that began in the great hall the night before is now being replayed on the streets. Some in the crowd, influenced by the friar's words, see you as a potential holy figure. They watch you for a sign, a miracle. They see your calm demeanor not as the shock of a condemned prisoner, but as the serene acceptance of a true martyr. They whisper the names of other female saints who suffered for their faith. Others are utterly convinced you are a witch. They see your dignity as demonic pride, your strange affliction as a mark of absolute evil. They shrink back from you, fearing you might cast a curse on them with a single glance. You are at this moment a living Rorschach test for the soul of the town. What they see in you reflects their own deepest fears and their most fervent hopes. You finally reach the base of the gallows hill. It's a small, windswept rise, bare of trees, with a commanding view of the town below. The cross is already there, laid upon the ground. Your journey through the gaze of the crowd is over. The final, terrible act is about to begin. At the top of the hill, the world shrinks. The crowd is a murmuring sea below, their individual faces lost in the distance. Up here, there are only the guards, a handful of stony-faced officials, a priest who looks deeply uncomfortable, and the executioner, a hulking man who does little to hide the brutal impassivity of his face. The air is thin and cold. They force you to the ground, pushing you down onto the rough wood of the cross. The splintered surface bites into your back through the thin fabric of your shift, your velvet gown having been stripped from you and cast aside like a soiled rag. The humiliation is calculated, a final stripping away of your rank and identity. You lie there, a strange, bearded girl in a simple linen shift, exposed to the sky and the cold, unpitying eyes of the men around you. The executioner approaches with a hammer and thick iron nails. This is the moment where reality should tear through your calm. This is the moment of pure physical terror. But you close your eyes. You are not on a hill outside your father's town. You are in a story. You are Saint Agatha facing her torturers. You are Saint Lucy, her eyes gouged out for her faith. You have lived in these stories for so long in the pages of your illuminated book, that they have become more real to you than the splintered wood beneath your back. As they nail your hands and feet to the cross, a new sound drifts up from the base of the hill. It is not the murmur of the crowd or the weeping of the sympathetic. It is music, a thin, reedy, unachingly sad melody, played on a medieval fiddle. It is a lament, a song of sorrow, cutting through the grim silence of the execution. You open your eyes. The cross has been raised, slotted into a deep hole in the ground with a jarring thud. You are hanging now, suspended between earth and sky. You look down past your own feet towards the crowd, and you see him. At the very front of the throng, separate from the others, is a man. He is a musician, a poor, traveling fiddler, his clothes patched and worn, his face edged with a sorrow that seems both personal and profound. He is the one playing. This figure, the fiddler at the cross, is one of the most poignant undebated elements of your story. No one knew who he was, or why he was there. Some versions of your legend say he was a poor man whom he had once shown a small act of kindness, giving him a coin or a piece of bread, and this was his way of repaying you. Others suggest he was simply a compassionate soul, a man so moved by the injustice and horror of the spectacle that he was compelled to offer the only thing he had, his music. Historians who analyze the structure of hagiograph see him as a crucial narrative device. He represents the pious witness. In almost every story of a martyrdom, there is a character who recognizes the true holiness of the saint, even as the world condemns them. This witness serves to validate the saint's sacrifice for the reader or listener. The fiddler is your witness. While the powerful see a monster, while the crowd sees a spectacle, he sees a tragedy. His music is a counter-narrative to your father's performance of shame. It reframes your execution not as a punishment, but as a martyrdom. The guards try to push him back to silence the mournful sound that is disrupting the grim officialdom of the event. But he doesn't resist. He simply keeps playing, his eyes fixed on you, tears streaming down his face and into his own untrimmed beard. His melody is a thread of beauty in a tapestry of horror, a single, defiant note of human compassion. The priest begins to drone the last rites, his Latin words almost lost on the wind. The officials are shifting their feet, impatient for the spectacle to be over. But you barely notice them. You are transfixed by the fiddler. In a world that has rejected you, that has recoiled from you in horror, this one stranger is sharing your final moments. He is not afraid of your beard, of your curse, of your supposed sin. He is simply seeing a fellow human being in pain, and he is answering that pain with art. It is an act of profound and unexpected grace, a final small miracle in a story that began with a large and terrible one. His sad, beautiful music is the last thing you will hear from the world of men. Hanging on the cross, you feel the world begin to fade. The sharp edges of the pain in your hands and feet soften into a dull, throbbing ache. The faces of the crowd below blur into a single pale mass. The sky above seems vast and close. The only clear thing is the fiddler's lament, a thread of sound anchoring you to the earth. A deep gratitude for this one unknown man fills you. He has given you a gift of compassion in your final moments, and you feel a powerful, miraculous surge to give him a gift in return. You are wearing nothing but your thin linen shift and a pair of simple slippers on your feet. But these are not just any slippers. They are the last remnant of your noble life, made of soft leather and embroidered with gold thread. On the toe of each is a small, golden buckle, a tiny, glittering piece of your former wealth. You look down at the fiddler. His own shoes, you can just make out, are little more than scraps of leather tied together with string. He is a poor man, a man who lives on the edge of society, just as you now hang on the edge of life. A connection forms between you, the outcast princess, and the outcast musician. What happens next is the core of your miracle, the act that will cement your legend for centuries to come. With a strength you should not possess, you flex your right foot. The muscles in your legs scream in protest. You manage to point your toe downwards, and with a final, convulsive jerk, you kick the slipper from your foot. It doesn't just fall. It seems to fly, tumbling end over end through the air in a graceful, impossible arc. It glitters in the morning sun, a tiny missile of gold and leather. The crowd gasps. All eyes follow its trajectory. It soars over the heads of the guards, over the front ranks of the astonished townspeople, and lands with a soft thud in the dirt, directly at the fiddler's feet. The fiddler stops playing. The music cuts off abruptly. He stares at the slipper, this impossible gift from the sky. He looks up at you, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and terror. He has not just witnessed an execution, he has witnessed a miracle. This event, the miraculous bestowing of the slipper, is a classic element of a saint's story. Wilgefortis call it the posthumous miracle, even though you are not quite dead yet. It is the definitive sign that God is on your side. It's a supernatural act that vindicates you in the eyes of the common people, directly contradicting the official judgment of the secular authorities. The slipper is more than just a shoe, it is a holy relic created in a moment of intervention. The historical debate around this part of your story is, of course, intense. Skeptics see it as pure fiction, a fantastical embellishment added to your legend long after the fact to make it more compelling and to fit the established pattern of martyrdom stories. They argue it's a symbolic act, the rich giving to the poor, the condemned blessing the compassionate, not a literal event. But believers both in your own time and for centuries after would take it as absolute proof of your sainthood. The story of the golden slipper would become as central to your identity as your beard. The guards are stunned into inaction. They don't know what to do. The execution is supposed to be a straightforward affair, a display of the Duke's power. It is not supposed to include magical flying shoes. The crowd begins to surge forward, their fear momentarily forgotten, replaced by a frantic desire to see the miracle, to touch the man who received it. The fiddler, with a dawning sense of the danger he is in, quickly snatches the slipper from the ground. He shoves it inside his worn tunic and, before the guards can react, he melts back into the chaos of the crowd and disappears. He knows that possessing this object makes him a target. He is now the keeper of a holy and dangerous secret. You watch him go, a faint, peaceful smile on your lips. Your final act on earth is complete. You have repaid kindness with a miracle. You have given your last possession to the only person who showed you any compassion. The pain is distant now. The sounds of the world are fading. The lament is over. There is only a profound and welcoming silence waiting for you. The world narrows to a pinpoint of light. The sounds of the crowd, the shouts of the guards, the biting wind on the hill, they all fade into a gentle, distant hum. The pain is gone, replaced by a feeling of profound lightness, as if the cross itself is dissolving and you are simply floating. You are aware of your own breathing, slow and shallow, each exhale a quiet release, a letting go. Your father is not on the hill. He did not stay to watch. He gave the order, and then retreated into the stone heart of his castle, to rage and grieve in private. It is a detail often debated by those who tell your story. Perhaps his absence was an act of cowardice, or perhaps some last, buried sliver of paternal love made it impossible for him to watch his own daughter die. Perhaps it was simply pride. He could not be seen to preside over such a bizarre and disorderly event, an execution that had been contaminated by music and miracles. His performance of absolute power had been hijacked, and he had lost control of the narrative. In the final moments, your mind does not recoil in terror. It expands into a state of serene observation. You see your life, not as a tragedy, but as a strange and perfect story, a path that leads you exactly where you needed to be. The gilded cage of your childhood, the secret vow in the chapel, the terrifying answer to your prayer, the hatred in your father's eyes. It was all a sequence, a series of steps leading you to this quiet, floating release. And in the most brutal and unexpected way you were. You feel a final, gentle exhale leave your body. It is not a gasp or a struggle. It is a soft sigh, like a person settling into a deep and welcome sleep. And then, it is over. Your story on the cross comes to its quiet, peaceful end. But the story of your legacy is just beginning. Down below, the crowd disperses in a state of confusion and awe. They came to see an execution, a grotesque spectacle. They are leaving having witnessed something else. They don't have a name for it yet, but the seeds of a new saint have been planted. The story of the bearded princess, the cruel father, the miraculous slipper, and the compassionate fiddler begins to spread. It is told that night in taverns over ale, whispered by mothers to their children as a strange and holy bedtime story. It is a story too weird, too powerful to be contained. The guards take your body down from the cross. There is a debate about what to do with it. Your father has given no instructions. He wants you erased, forgotten. But the friar who spoke up in the hall and a few other pious townspeople intervene. They argue that even a condemned criminal deserves a Christian burial. Reluctantly, the authorities agree. They give your body to a small group of devout women who wash you and wrap you in a clean linen shroud. As they perform these final rites, they touch your beard with a sense of reverent wonder. This is no longer a mark of a monster. It is the relic of a martyr. They bury you in a simple, unmarked grave in the corner of the churchyard. They believe this will be the end of it, but it is not. Your story has escaped the control of dukes and guards. It now belongs to the people, and they will ensure it is never forgotten. Your physical presence is gone from the earth, but you are about to be reborn, in 1,000 different places and 1,000 different ways as a legend. The breath that left your body on that windy hill was not an end. It was the beginning of a whole new kind of life. They bury you in an unmarked grave in the Potter's Field section of the churchyard reserved for the nameless and the disgraced. Your father hopes this is the end. An unmarked patch of earth, soon to be overgrown with weeds, is the final, silent expression of his desire to erase you from history. But a story like yours doesn't stay buried. It has too many witnesses, and one of them has proof. The fiddler, the man with the sad eyes and the compassionate music, is the first to carry your tale beyond the town walls. He is an itinerant musician, a man who wanders from village to village, trading songs for supper and a place to sleep by the fire. And he has a new song now. A terrible, beautiful ballad about a bearded princess who died on a cross. And when people doubt his tale, when they accuse him of being drunk or mad, he reaches into his tunic and pulls out a single, golden buckled slipper. He doesn't just have a story, he has a relic. Slowly your legend begins to take root. Back in your hometown, people start to find their way to your grave. At first, they come at night, leaving a single wild flower or a small, smooth stone. It becomes an open secret, a place of quiet pilgrimage. But who are these first pilgrims? Not the lords and ladies. They are the ones who understand cages. They are women. A woman trapped in a marriage to a cruel, drunken husband hears the story. She hears of a girl who found a miraculous way to escape an unwanted man. She doesn't pray for a beard. That's not the part of the story that resonates with her. She prays for the escape. One night, she creeps into the churchyard, kneels on the damp earth of your grave, and whispers a desperate, practical prayer. Holy maiden, you who were saved from a king, save me from my husband. Uncumber. The word means to disencumber, to free from a burden. It's a plain, simple word for a plain, simple need. And as more women come to your grave with the same prayer, that word becomes your name. You are no longer the Duke's daughter. You have a new, secret, holy name, Saint Uncumber. Historians and folklorists, of course, still debate the origin of this name. Some believe it is as it seems, a literal title given to you by English-speaking petitioners who sought to be rid of their troubles. But others propose a more complex and fascinating theory. They suggest your story may have originated in the German-speaking lands of Flanders, where you were known as Heilige, which translates roughly to Holy One who helps escape. They argue that when your story traveled to England, the unfamiliar German name was heard and repeated, slowly being corrupted by English tongues until ONT, became Uncumber. It's a beautiful example of how a saint's identity can be shaped by the linguistic journey of their own legend. As your cult grows, strange new rituals emerge. Women begin leaving you offerings, not of flowers or coins, but of oats. A small scoop of oats, left in a little pile on your grave. No one is quite sure why the offering was oats. It's one of those historical oddities that defies a single explanation. Perhaps it was a practical prayer, an offering to feed the horse that would carry a troublesome husband far away to war or on a long journey. Pre-Christian folk tradition, a harvest offering grafted onto the story of a new Christian saint. Whatever its origin, it becomes your signature. To pray to Saint Uncumber, you bring an offering of oats. You are becoming something your father never could have imagined. Not a queen, but something far more powerful. You are becoming a folk saint, a specialist. Just as people pray to Saint Unwanted to find lost things, they are beginning to pray to you, Saint Uncumber, to lose unwanted things. Specifically, unwanted husbands. The girl who died to escape one man is now, in death, the patron saint for countless women trying to do the same. a whispered prayer in the dark. Your story is too potent to stay in one place. Like a seed on the wind, it travels, carried by pilgrims, merchants, and wandering minstrels like your fiddler. Your legend crosses the sea and spreads across the European continent. And as it moves, it changes. It adapts to new languages and new cultures, putting on a different mask in each new place, while the core of the story, the beard, the father, the cross, remains remarkably intact. In France, they call you Saint Debarras. The name means Saint Good Riddance, a wonderfully direct and sassy title that captures the essence of your patronage. French women, trapped in unhappy marriages, pray to Saint Debarras to be rid of their husbands, leaving you small offerings in quiet side chapels. Your story there takes on a slightly more pragmatic, almost mischievous tone. You are not just a tragic martyr, you are a clever and powerful ally in the domestic wars between men and women. In the German-speaking lands you are known as Kummer. The name is related to the German word Kummer, which means grief or sorrow. Here, your story is tinged with a deeper melancholy. You are the saint who understands suffering, the one who bore a terrible affliction with grace. Kummer is a figure of comfort not just for unhappy wives, but for anyone bearing a secret sorrow or a visible mark of shame. Your beard is seen as a symbol of all the burdens that people are forced to carry. In Italy, you become Volto Santo, which means holy face. This is perhaps the most confusing and fascinating transformation of all. Your identity becomes entangled with a famous and very real religious icon, the Volto Santo of Lucca. This was a large, ancient wooden crucifix, said to have been carved by Nicodemus, who helped bury Christ. The figure of Christ on this crucifix was depicted wearing a full-length robe known as a colobium, which was common in early Eastern Christian art. To Western European eyes, accustomed to seeing Christ depicted with only a loincloth, this robed figure on a cross, with its long hair and beard, looked ambiguous, feminine, even. Historians still debate the exact nature of the connection. It is hard to say which came first. Perhaps the legend of a crucified bearded woman arose from pilgrims misinterpreting the robed, androgynous-looking crucifix of Lucca. Or perhaps your pre-existing story, as it traveled south into Italy, simply found a powerful visual anchor in this famous icon. The two legends merging and blending together. It is a classic chicken and egg problem of historical folklore. But the result is that in Italy, you are both a folk saint and in a way a case of mistaken identity, your story forever linked to a real, tangible object that pilgrims could visit and venerate. So you exist in multiple places at once under different names. You are Cumber in England, Debarras in France, Kummer in Germany, and Volto Santo in Italy. Each name reflects a slightly different aspect of your power and your tragedy. It's a beautiful illustration of how a single story can act as a mirror, reflecting the specific anxieties and needs of the culture that embraces it. The English wanted a practical solution to a problem. The French, a witty and defiant one, a comforting presence in their sorrow. The Italians, a connection to a holy, physical artifact. You are a saint with many faces, and under each face, there is a beard. You are a fluid, adaptable legend, a testament to the power of a story to cross borders and reinvent itself, becoming a local hero in a dozen different homelands. You are no longer just the Duke of Portugal's daughter. You are a European phenomenon, a whispered name in a multitude of languages, a beacon of hope for the unhappy and the outcast, from the shores of England to the hills of Tuscany. As your cult grows, so does the desire for something tangible. A story is powerful, but a physical object is proof. People need something to see, to touch, to anchor their faith. The age of relics is in full swing, and you, a martyred saint with a very distinctive story, are a prime candidate for veneration. The demand for your physical remains begins. The first church to claim a connection to you is, naturally, in your hometown. The local priest, seeing the ever-increasing number of women leaving oats on that unmarked patch of ground in his churchyard, has a revelation. It is part piety, part pragmatism. A local saint means pilgrims, and pilgrims mean donations. He arranges for a formal exhumation of your supposed grave. A small, simple ceremony is held. They dig, and they find a skeleton. It is impossible to say if it is really you. The grave was unmarked, the burial hasty. But it is a skeleton, and that is enough. The bones are declared to be your sacred relics. They are carefully cleaned and placed in a beautiful, ornate box called a reliquary, decorated with gold leaf and semi-precious stones. The reliquary is placed in a specially built side chapel, and suddenly, you are no longer a secret folk saint. You are an official part of the local church. Pilgrims now have a focal point for their devotion. They can come and kneel before the box that contains your bones, leaving their offerings of oats in a proper, church-sanctioned location. The trade in holy relics was a massive, and often deeply cynical, industry in the Middle Ages. The bones of the apostles, splinters from the true cross, vials of the Virgin Mary's milk. Relics were everywhere, and their authenticity was often highly questionable. Theologians argued that the spiritual power of a relic was not necessarily dependent on its authenticity. The faith of the pilgrim was what mattered. This created a fertile ground for a thriving market in fakes and forgeries. As one famous skeptic of the era, Erasmus, would later joke, there were enough pieces of the true cross in European churches to build an entire ship. Your relics, however, present a unique opportunity. You are not just known for your bones, you are known for your beard. Soon, a second kind of relic appears, a small glass locket containing a few strands of dark, coarse hair. The church that houses your bones claims that these hairs were miraculously preserved in your tomb. Then another church, in a neighboring kingdom, announces that they have acquired a relic of your hair, gifted to them by a mysterious traveler, perhaps the fiddler himself. A dozen different churches across Europe claim to possess a locket, with a few strands of your miraculous beard. Almost certainly none of them are real, but they are potent symbols, a tangible connection to the most bizarre and memorable part of your story. This proliferation of relics solidifies your legend. A story is abstract, but a reliquary full of bones or a locket full of hair is a fact you can see with your own eyes. Each new church that claims a piece of you becomes a new center for your cult, spreading your fame further and further. Artists are commissioned to create images of you. Statues are carved, stained glass windows are made. They almost always depict the same scene, you a woman in a long gown, hanging on a cross, with a full, flowing beard. Sometimes the fiddler is there at your feet, looking up in awe, his hand outstretched to catch the golden slipper. This is how a legend is built piece by piece. It starts with a story, which is then anchored by relics, which are then illustrated by art. You have been transformed from a tragic girl into an institution. You have bones, hair, and a feast day on the local calendar. You have become a permanent part of the spiritual landscape. Your strange, sad story now set in stone, glass, and gold. Centuries pass. The world changes in ways you could never have imagined. The medieval era, with its particular blend of faith, folklore, and brutality, gives way to an age of inquiry and reason. New ways of thinking are sweeping across Europe. Scholars are re-examining ancient texts, scientists are looking at the stars with new eyes, and theologians are beginning to question the vast and messy catalogue of saints that has accumulated over the centuries, which once seemed so plausible, so divinely self-evident, is about to come under scrutiny. The process begins slowly, in the quiet of libraries and scripture mess. During the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, a new kind of scholar emerges, the critical historian. These are men who are not content to simply accept the pious legends of the past. They want evidence. They want sources. They begin to sift through the vast collection of saints' lives, the hagiographies, comparing different versions of the stories, looking for inconsistencies and impossibilities. And your stories, with its miraculous beard and flying slipper, is a prime target for their skeptical gaze. They ask pointed, uncomfortable questions. They look for any contemporary account of your life and death. They search for any mention of a crucified, bearded daughter in the official records of any Portuguese duke. They find nothing. Your story seems to appear in the historical record fully formed, centuries after you were supposed to have lived. They point to the anachronism of your execution. A medieval duke would not have used crucifixion. This, they argue, is proof that your story was composed much later, by someone whose knowledge of martyrdom came from the Bible, not from contemporary life. Their theory goes like this: pilgrims from northern Europe, traveling to Rome, would often stop in the city of Lucca to venerate the famous Volto Santo crucifix. Seeing the strange, robed figure of Christ with its long hair and beard, they mistook it for a crucified woman. They asked the locals who it was, and a legend was born to explain the strange image. The story of the beautiful princess, the unwanted marriage, and the miraculous beard was, they argue, an elaborate folk tale created to make sense of a confusing piece of art. The story then traveled back north with the pilgrims, taking on new names and details as it went. This process, where a story is created to explain a ritual or an object, is something folklorists call an aetiogalical myth. And your story, the scholars claim, is a perfect example. You weren't a real person whose story was recorded. You were a fictional character invented to explain this statue. This skeptical view gains momentum. In the 16th century, during the Protestant Reformation, your cult comes under direct attack. The reformers, in their desire to purge the church of what they saw as superstition and idolatry, targeted the cults of saints with particular zeal. A bearded, crucified woman who helps wives get rid of their husbands. To them, you were the epitome of Catholic foolishness, a bizarre and faintly comical folk tale that had no place in a purified, rational faith. Statues of you are torn down. Altars dedicated to you are destroyed. Your name is struck from local calendars. The final, most official blow comes much later, in the 20th century. The Catholic Church, in a major effort to modernize and streamline its own traditions after the Second Vatican Council, undertakes a massive review of the official list of saints. A team of historians and theologians, armed with modern methods of historical research, is tasked with identifying which saints are historically verifiable and which are purely legendary, along with those of other beloved but historically dubious figures like Saint Christopher. It is quietly removed from the general Roman calendar, the official schedule of saints' feast days. You are, in a sense, desainted. The official church, after centuries of tolerating and even encouraging your cult, has finally declared you a fiction. The girl who never existed has been officially erased. And so you are officially declared a ghost, a pious fiction, a historical mistake. The scholars have had their say. The church has issued its decree. The file is closed. But a story like yours doesn't die just because it's been disproven. In fact, in a strange way, being declared a fiction sets you free. You are no longer bound by the dusty rules of historical evidence or the rigid doctrines of theology. You are released into the wider, wilder world of myth. And in that world you are reborn. In the modern era, new kinds of people find their way to your story, and they see in you things that the medieval pilgrims and the Renaissance scholars never could. They are not looking for a saint to solve their marital problems or a historical figure to debunk. They are looking for a symbol. Feminist scholars and writers stumble upon your strange tale, and they see in you a powerful, if tragic, emblem of female resistance. They see a woman trapped in a patriarchal world where her body is a commodity, a piece of property to be traded by her father. They see your prayer for ugliness as a radical act of rebellion, a desperate attempt to reclaim ownership of your own body. Your beard, in this reading, is not a monstrous deformity. It is a shield, a weapon, and to find no written on your own flesh. You become a kind of proto-feminist icon, a symbol of the extreme lengths women have had to go to in order to control their own destinies. Then, others find you. People from the LGBTQ community, who have their own long and often hidden history, see a reflection of their own experiences in your story. They see a figure who exists outside of neat gender categories, a person whose body does not conform to the expectations of society. They see in your bearded, crucified from a powerful symbol of gender nonconformity. You are not simply a woman with a beard, you are a figure who transcends the binary of male and female. Your story resonates with their own struggles for acceptance, their own experience seen as unnatural or monstrous by a world that fears what it cannot categorize. You become an unlikely patron saint for those who live in the beautiful, complex spaces between traditional gender roles. Artists and poets are drawn to your story too. They are captivated by the sheer, surreal power of your imagery, the beautiful princess with the flowing beard, the golden slipper flying from the cross. You become a muse for paintings, poems, and novels, a figure of beautiful and tragic contradiction. Your story is so strange, so visually potent, that it feels less like history and more like a fairy tale or a dream. And this is where you now find your most comfortable home. The historical debate never truly ends. Scholars ask if a real girl named Wilgefortis or Uncumber de Barras ever lived. They question if there was a real historical event that sparked this bizarre and enduring legend. They wonder if you are purely a product of a misinterpreted statue and the collective imagination of a continent. The most likely answer, the one that many historians now tentatively accept, is a blend of both. Perhaps there was a real woman, maybe a hirsute girl who was persecuted, or a devout mystic whose story was exaggerated over time. And perhaps her nascent legend then merged with the powerful, confusing imagery of the Vol to Santo, the two streams of story flowing together to create the powerful river of your myth. We will probably never know for sure. And in the end, perhaps it doesn't matter. You sit at the intersection of history, faith, art, and folklore. You are a holy monster, a feminist icon, a queer saint, a historical riddle. You are a testament to the fact that the most powerful stories are often the ones that refuse to be simple. You are the girl who prayed for ugliness and was answered with a tragic, beautiful, and utterly unforgettable story, and still finds new ways to bloom in the strangest of gardens, even now, so many centuries after that quiet exhale on a windy hill. And so, the legend of the bearded saint comes to its quiet close, its sharp edges now softening, fading into the gentle darkness that rests behind your eyes. The image of a cross on a windy hill, the impossible glint of a golden slipper, the faint, sad melody of a lonely fiddle, they are all just whispers now, echoes in a dream that is already beginning to drift away on a soft and silent tide. You can let them all go now, allowing the details of the story to dissolve, like salt in a warm sea, leaving behind only a profound feeling of peace. There is nothing left to analyze, nothing left to follow, no more winding paths to walk within this tale. The only journey that remains for tonight is your own, a slow and gentle and easy drift into the deep and welcoming quiet of your own rest. You might begin to notice the comforting weight of the blanket upon you, a gentle, grounding pressure that feels safe and secure. You might feel the softness of the pillow beneath your head, a safe harbor in the stillness of your room. The sounds of the story have all faded away, and in their place, there is only a deep and peaceful silence, a silence that belongs completely and only to you. Let this quiet be your companion now, as you drift further and further down, sinking softly into a place of deep and truly effortless slumber. The story is now over, and your own dreams will welcome you. Our journey together tonight ends here, in this quiet place. Should you need another tale to accompany you further into rest, my library of stories is always open for you. May your dreams be kind. Good night.